They say time heals everything. But for Sophia, time only peeled back layers of confusion until the truth stood naked, raw, and unforgiving. Her mother's death was the beginning, but the shadows had been creeping in long before. Sophia had just graduated from university when the call came. Her mother, Elena, had passed after a short battle with cancer. The news hit like ice in her chest. She'd spoken to her just weeks before, her voice faint, but still filled with quiet strength. The distance and her studies had kept Sophia away more than she liked to admit, but her mother had always reassured her. "Focus on your future," she had said. "I'm proud of you." Sophia returned home to a place that felt unfamiliar. The house had changed. The warm, earthy tones her mother loved had been replaced with sterile whites and grays. A modern aesthetic had taken over, and the comforting scent of jasmine, her mother's favorite, was gone. Her father, Jason, greeted her at the door with a stiff hug. Behind him was Michelle, his second wife. She smiled warmly, a little too warmly. "We're so glad you're here, sweetheart. Your mom would have wanted this, to have you back home." Sophia nodded, her grief too fresh to analyze the odd tightness in Michelle's voice. She pushed the unease down. Everyone grieved differently. Michelle had once been Jason's executive assistant, poised, polished, and always perfect. With sleek blonde hair, designer heels, and a rehearsed warmth, she was sunshine in everyone's eyes. She hosted lavish charity events, not just to give back, but to be seen-giving. A master of public grace, Michelle played the role of the loving stepmother with syrupy smiles and soft words, but to Sophia, it all felt like performance. Over the next few days, Sophia wandered the house like a ghost. Her mother's presence was fading fast. The garden, once blooming with wildflowers and exotic plants, was overgrown and dry. Her mother's studio, where she wrote her botanical journals, was locked. Michelle's redecorating, Jason said when Sophia asked about it. "We needed the space. She's thinking of turning it into a home office." Sophia said nothing, but a thread of discomfort tugged at her. She busied herself with clearing her old bedroom, sorting through her mother's keepsakes, what few remained, and tried to be present. But the questions kept piling up. Why hadn't anyone called her earlier when her mother was hospitalized? Why was the funeral so rushed? Why did Michelle seem to always appear whenever Sophia tried to be alone in a part of the house? It wasn't until Sophia ran into Mrs. Harper, her mother's closest friend, that the first fracture appeared in the surface. "Elena told me she'd finalized her will, Mrs. Harper said softly, brushing a tear from her cheek. "She said she left everything to you, said she wanted you to continue her work." Sophia blinked. "Everything?" She said it was all yours. The house, her journals, her savings, even the greenhouse research she'd been working on. When Sophia brought it up with Jason and Michelle later that evening, Jason's face darkened. "Elena wasn't herself toward the end," he said. "She got confused easily. The final will left things to us, and that's what we have to respect." Michelle added gently, "She just wanted to take care of everyone. You were busy with school, sweetheart. She knew we'd make sure you were supported." But Sophia remembered her mother's voice. Crystal clear. "It's yours, Sophia. I've written it down. No one can change that." Doubt turned to suspicion. That night, Sophia waited until the house was dark. She tiptoed to the study, Michelle's new office, and picked the lock using an old trick from childhood. Inside, her mother's journals were gone. In their place were design mock-ups and mood boards for luxury furniture. Except for one thing. In the bottom drawer, beneath a pile of receipts, she found a tiny envelope addressed to her in her mother's handwriting. It contained a USB drive. Sophia plugged it into her laptop back in her room, heart racing. Inside were scanned pages from Elena's journals, spreadsheets, and voice memos. One memo played with a crackling hum. "They've been changing my medication. I know something's wrong. I tried telling Jason, but he says I'm imagining things. Michelle always smiles. Too much. I found my original will. It's hidden in the garden journal. If anyone finds this, check under the rose bush. The old one. Sophia's breath caught in her throat. The rose bush. Her mother's favorite. Now dead and dry. The next day, while Jason and Michelle were out, she dug beneath it with a trowel. At first, nothing. Then, metal. A sealed tin. Inside, the original will, labeled vials of pills with dosages written in her mother's neat handwriting, and a second USB. The files showed inconsistencies in the medication dosages. Journal entries grew, increasingly panicked. They won't let Sophia see me. They say I need rest. But I know what they're doing. I just don't know why. She stayed at the house, pretending nothing had changed. She smiled. She played the grieving daughter. All the while, she was compiling files, tracing IP addresses, documenting every financial transaction Michelle made using the joint estate funds. And then came the first real twist. Sophia discovered that Michelle had been married before. Twice. Both husbands had died under strange circumstances, one a heart attack, the other a fall from a balcony. Insurance payouts both times. Quiet settlements. No family to ask questions. Michelle wasn't just manipulative. She was calculated. And Jason? He wasn't the clueless man Sophia thought. In Michelle's email drafts, she found messages never sent. One said, "We can't keep doing this. She suspects too much. You said she'd be gone by spring." Another, "The pills are working faster now. But Sophia's coming home early. What if she finds out?" Sophia felt the bottom drop out from under her. Her father knew. Maybe even planned it. But Sophia wasn't starting from scratch. Elena had known. Long before the illness took hold, she had grown suspicious. And instead of confronting Jason or Michelle directly, she began preparing in secret. She enlisted Mr. Lang, not just the family lawyer, but an old college friend of her father's and someone she trusted implicitly. Together, they collected everything: receipts, transfer records, property documents, insurance filings, each one stored in a secure vault under Sophia's name. Elena also hired a private investigator, a quiet man named Harris, who documented Michelle's movements, tracked financial flows, and compiled a timeline that made the fraud undeniable. They worked silently, methodically, waiting for the right moment. Elena had planned it all: the documents, the evidence, the testimonies, all to be delivered to Sophia the day she came of age. It was her final protection, a maternal safeguard left like breadcrumbs for her daughter to follow. When Sophia opened the sealed envelope Mr. Lang handed her, she felt her mother's presence in every word, every paperclip. Elena hadn't just fought back. She had built a time bomb. And now it was in Sophia's hands. What came next shattered any illusion Sophia had left. As she combed through digital banking records, email backups, and property documents, tools she'd taught herself to analyze over months, she began to unravel a web far more elaborate than she'd feared. She discovered a shell corporation named Verdant Holdings, established under a proxy identity just over 2 years before her mother's cancer diagnosis. At first glance, the company appeared dormant, with no major activity. But hidden behind coded ledger entries and offshore transactions were consistent deposits, small at first, then growing into tens of thousands. Each deposit could be traced back to one of Elena's personal investment accounts. Sophia followed the money trail meticulously. She noticed that, right before Elena's diagnosis, large sums had been withdrawn, using her mother's credentials. Signatures that didn't match, authorization emails sent from an IP address tied not to their family home, but to Michelle's previous office. There was also an alarming pattern: life insurance policies taken out in Elena's name with Verdant Holdings listed as a beneficiary. It was done quietly, layered under business jargon and legal loopholes, but the implication was clear: Elena had been financially stripped long before her illness became public. Sophia didn't confront her father. Not yet. She played the part of the grieving, confused daughter. She smiled softly, accepted Michelle's fake sympathy, and nodded when Jason told her everything was under control. But beneath that mask, Sophia was working with relentless precision. She quietly filed for control over Elena's estate, using the original notarized will and mounting evidence of fraud. Behind the scenes, she collaborated with investigators, attorneys, and financial analysts, feeding them everything. Every bank statement, every forged signature, every shady transaction. But in public, she was gracious, even grateful. Her performance was flawless. Then, she set the stage. Jason and Michelle were known for their extravagant charity galas, an annual garden soiree at the estate where the city's most elite gathered. This year, Sophia insisted they hosted in memory of her mother. Michelle was thrilled. The press would be there. Donors, local officials, influential friends. A perfect rebranding opportunity. The night arrived, and the estate had never looked more beautiful. Lanterns glowed softly in the garden, a live quartet played beneath the trellises, and glasses of champagne flowed freely. Sophia took the stage beneath the jasmine-covered arch where her mother used to sit. Cameras rolled. The crowd hushed. "I want to thank you all for coming tonight," she began, her voice steady. "My mother loved this garden. She believed truth, like beauty, blooms in time. And tonight, I want to honor that truth." Behind her, the projector screen lit up. Transaction histories, forged documents, email correspondences, Elena's voice memos. One by one, the evidence appeared. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Michelle went pale. Jason's glass slipped from his hand. Sophia continued. Calm, precise, devastating. My mother was silenced, but she left behind a map. I followed it. She looked directly at Michelle. And I found everything. Security entered the garden, followed by 2 plainclothes officers. Michelle screamed. Jason tried to run. Both were handcuffed in front of the very people they once tried to impress. The next day, headlines covered the scandal. Heiress exposes parents' murder plot at gala. But by then, Sophia didn't care about the money. She reclaimed the house, restored the garden, and reopened her mother's greenhouse to the public. And every morning, she walked through the rows of blooming roses, barefoot, letting the earth remember what had been buried.